I have a confession to make. Tough Enough actually wasn't that bad. Sure, it was a Street Fighter 2 ripoff, and a bad one at that, but at least it functioned as a game and brought some new things to the table. This, however, is the real deal. This is Power Moves. Not only one of the worst fighting games, but were Super Nintendo and probably one of the worst games I've ever played. Now, I actually discovered this when I was working on the Tough Enough review. I thought I had seen the worst, but it doesn't even compare to how shit this game is. Well, ladies, gentlemen, others, welcome to the 10th anniversary of Zero's Maverick hunting. This is Power Moves. Power Athlete is a fighting game created by System Vision and published by Kaneko for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis in 1992. To be honest, I'd never heard of either System Vision or Kaneko, and I realize why. I haven't played or heard of any of the games by System Vision, and the only games I recognize from Kaneko are Chester Cheetah, Too Cool to Fool, and Wild Wild Quest for the Sega Genesis, and Heavy Unit for the PC Engine. So yeah, not a great track record. Even better, they have a magazine ad for the Genesis, which includes drawn images in the place of screenshots. I haven't even talked about the game yet, and already this looks bad. While in Japan the game was known as Power Athlete on both Genesis and Super Nintendo, here in the West it's known as Deadly Moves on the Genesis and Power Moves on the SNES. Both versions are the same except for a few minor differences. Other than the names and hardware being different, the cover art on the Genesis version contains blood while the SNES's box replaces it with sweat. The only other difference I noticed in each game was the ending theme doesn't play until the credits start rolling on the Genesis, but it plays right at the victory image on the SNES. Yeah, I know, very important, but if I didn't mention it, I'm sure someone will. Now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the damn game. Also, you can play as Rancor in the Genesis version's multiplayer only. Bet you thought I forgot that one, didn't you? While Tough Enough was a Street Fighter 2 clone, Power Moves is a clone of two games, Street Fighter and Fatal Fury. Let me reiterate that. A Street Fighter and Fatal Fury clone. And I don't mean Street Fighter 2, oh no. Power Moves decided to copy the original Street Fighter. In Power Moves, you could only play as Joe, while the character select screen is to select your opponent, which each have their own stats. More on that later. Where this game is like Fatal Fury is where you can fight on two planes. However, unlike the smooth transition between planes in Fatal Fury, you just move up and down a little bit. So worth it. Now, with all that being said, we can already see why this game is bad, but I'm sure some of you might be thinking, well, as long as the gameplay is decent, it might be worth a playthrough. I wish it were that simple. I've been holding off on talking about this, but it's time I explain why I think this game is the worst fighting game ever made. It's the controls. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of different fighting games that have their own control schemes. Some are simpler, while others are more complex for a deeper fighting system. But this game takes the cake. The controls are as follows. Use the D-pad left and right to move your character, and up and down to change planes. Now you might be asking, well, how does jumping work? You press A. You fucking press A. Why? I'm gonna play devil's advocate one more time and give this game the benefit of the doubt. The A button is known as a common button for jumping. On the NES. First of all, for a fighting game, why fucking A? I get it. You want to do the whole two planes of battle, but why not make this for L and R? You know, like how Power Rangers the movie on SNES did it? On top of that, the common button for jumping on the SNES is B. Super Mario World, Megaman X, Donkey Kong Country, all B. While A is used for secondary functions like spin jump, dash, or throwing characters. Well, guess what B does? It kicks. That's it. The only other buttons used in the game are Y for punching and start for pausing. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. Why did they do this? You took all this extra time to copy Fatal Fury and Street Fighter, but you didn't copy the one thing that makes those games work! You know what? I said my piece about the bad controls. Let's move on. So, how does the game play? Well, for starters, the game starts you out at difficulty level 4 with 3 continues. Okay, let's see how that goes.
12 seconds later.
I'm getting my ass kicked! So on the default difficulty, even if I increase the amount of continues to the maximum, which is 5, the game is nearly impossible. I can maybe win 1 or 2 fights, but after that I'm done for. Is there any reward for beating the game on a harder difficulty? No. Nothing changes whether you beat it on the easiest or hardest difficulty, so fuck it, I'm gonna go down to 1. Even on difficulty level 1, this game is relentless. That is until I started figuring it out. So let's go through the entire single player mode, one character at a time. First off, we have Bao, a Kabuki warrior whose face is painted on the character avatar, but not on his character model. He also got his victory pose from, I don't know, E Honda, Jiraiya, the Hurricanegers. Take your pick. The best way to beat him is to get close and spam punches. He'll get sort of stun locked. He may block a few of them, but the strategy should still work. Next up, we have Galan. At first he's quite tough, as a special where he throws knives is nearly impossible to dodge. However, if you move towards him once the animation is halfway done, the same strategy works on him. It'll take some practice, but once you get a feel for the rhythm, it's easy enough to dodge. Rayon requires a different strategy. Rather than getting close and punching her, you'll want to back up and block until she gets close to you, and then attack. Also, never kick her. It doesn't work and she counters it easily. Also, you can block by holding back. I forgot to mention that. Nick requires a mix of both strategies. Start by backing up and blocking, and when there's an opening, charge at him with punches. This same strategy works on Old Man Warren, Baraki, Blanca's caveman cousin, and Vajnad, the master of blue balls. After each battle, you'll receive a stat boost and a password for your progress. So if you're having a hard time with a certain opponent, you can power yourself up by winning other matches. There's even bonus rounds that happen after a few fights to help you rack up some points. There's one thing I have to ask though. Why are there continues if you're just gonna give us passwords? It just seems kind of redundant. Let's just hurry up and finish this game by going over the final boss, Rancor. He's your typical spammy last boss, and the move forward and spam him with punches strategy works. Once you beat him, the game declares that you are #1 fighter. Then the credits roll. Well, that was a half hour well wasted. And I'm still not done talking about the gameplay. You might have noticed this game has special moves. Not only are they all balls simple, they're also a lot of the time rip-offs as well. Take for example, Joe's special move. Not to draw any more comparisons to the Ryu ripoff wearing yoga pants, but his special is literally called Hadoken. Didn't even try with this one, did you? Not to mention, Nick's special is literally the spinning bird kick from Chun-Li. There's a few other similarities, but you get the idea. As for how the special moves are implemented, all the special moves are done by doing some combination of back, forward, punch, and kick. There's no quarter circle or half circle moves, or even any back forward, forward back forward, or other such combinations like in Mortal Kombat. So at least the game kept the special moves simple and didn't try to rip off too much with them, other than, you know, the animations. And with that, I'm finally done talking about the gameplay. The graphics of the game aren't bad, but they're not good either. It's an early game for the Super Nintendo, so I'm not surprised. What is surprising is the graphics are nearly the same on both the Genesis and Super Nintendo, which is pretty interesting, and I'm not just talking about the character sprites, the backgrounds, animation, even some parallax scrolling is going on. The similarity in graphics leads me to believe that this must have been developed for the Genesis first and then ported over to the SNES. That might also explain why the controls are the way they are, as Y, B, and A on the Super Nintendo controller are in a similar layout to A, B, and C on the Genesis controller. It also might explain why they went with up and down to change planes rather than using L and R, as the Genesis controller does not have shoulder buttons. However, this is not an excuse for poor controls on either version. As for the sound design, it's meh. The sound effects are what you would expect for a fighting game, just generic crashes and whipping sounds. The game does have some voiceovers for special moves, but they're nothing special either. The music is poor on either Super Nintendo or Genesis. It's all just generic battle music from the era and probably would fit more in line with Ultimate Fighter than straight up fighting game. Is there any guess what my verdict on this game is? Power Moves is terrible. It barely functions as a game, has terrible controls, isn't even a good ripoff of other fighting games, and is best left forgotten, which for the most part has been. There is no reason to pick this up, even for curiosity's sake, but that won't stop any of you from trying it, I'm sure. And thus, another piece of shit to add to the pile. You know, when I started this show, so many years ago, I wanted to bring the obscure, the unknown, the unappreciated to the limelight. Have I done that? Well, I've amassed 1,500 subscribers. That's something, I guess. But there are channels that started after me that have already well exceeded that. So where does that leave me? Do my videos even matter? I mean, I guess I could upload more regularly, but when I make more regular videos, they tend to not be as good, and then I get burnt out and don't want to make videos for a while. I got into the social media thing late. Most of my viewers don't even know when my videos go out. I'd be lucky to get 1,000 views on a video today, when like 5-6 years ago, that was no problem. Is there anywhere for me to go from here? Maybe it's time that I stop. Maybe, I had a good 10 years and people enjoyed my videos and maybe they didn't, but maybe it's time to finally hang up the towel. Maybe that's it for me. I remember this. This was the first game I ever reviewed. Well, technically the first game was Megaman on Game Boy, but this was the first one where I took it seriously. Man, that video took a lot of work. And while I don't really care for it much now, I did my best on it, and I was pretty proud of it at the time. Ultimate Fighter, another game I was dying to do a video on, and another game that a lot of people didn't really like that much, so I was glad I could get my take on it. Mega Man 7, that's where I really took this seriously. I wanted to talk about this game so badly. It was my favorite in the Mega Man series, and everybody pretty much shit all over it. I was glad I was finally able to say my piece on it, and I hope a few people changed their mind on it. Legacy of the Wizard. Well, that was a learning experience. It was the first time I had a negative reception to a review, and to be honest, it's pretty much deserved. I was trying something new and it didn't work, but that inspired me to keep trying new things. I cherish all these videos. Have they made a difference? Does it even matter? Who cares? I'm having a great time making these videos, and I've got a lot more to talk about. Well guys, it looks like the only way to go is back to basics, and this time, in unfamiliar territory. Thanks for watching Zero's Maverick hunting for 10 years. I'll see you next time. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching my 10th anniversary review. Wow, 10 years. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. If you'd like to see my previous video on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers games, you can click the link up in the left there. And I'll probably have some other video up on the right. Not sure what it's going to be, so whatever I decide to put there. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and, maybe hit the little bell so, YouTube will actually tell you when my videos come out. And follow me on my social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. Links are on the description and on the page. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.